Let's be real. Times are extremely hard right now. So the question becomes, how can you make money in the UK or wherever you are? That is the ultimate question. Now, when we think about all of this stuff, this is you. Okay. This is you right now. Okay. Maybe you're not sad, but the point being made is a lot of people are feeling the crunch. They're feeling like things are crazy expensive and it's very difficult to just survive and pay for life as it is. And so we got situations where, number one, finding a job is really difficult. If we looked at the statistics previously, yes, there's been a little bit of a jump in terms of job improvements, but they're very concentrated in specific areas. You've also got a situation where inflation is extremely high, okay? And what I mean by that is the numbers of inflation aren't as high as COVID. I think it was like 11, 12%. And yes, it is relatively lower in relation to that. But we are in an inflationary environment. Why? Because of multiple things happening with logistics, tariffs, changes in power, should we say. And so I mean more an inflationary environment rather than high inflation. You've also got this element of war or occupation. What do I mean by this? There are, again, these stats were from before, but at least 30 plus different wars going on in their own way, shape, and form. It's not just happening in Ukraine or Russia. And so there is an unsettling tension that is developing. And this is why, from a political standpoint, we are moving into a space where a lot of people are either hard left or hard right. And actually, we're seeing a lot of hard right developments in Europe over the last couple of years. We've also got situations where, because of all of the increases that we've seen in terms of services and goods, this has contributed based on the increase in energy prices. And why is this coming to play? Because of things like war. If we think about the Ukraine and Russia war, well, Ukraine and Russia are big contributors to gases, oils, all of that kind of stuff there. And so if their countries are in turmoil, that's going to affect all of those different people who receive these goods, i.e. energy. And as I said already, things are getting expensive. Okay. So you know about CPI, the Consumer Price Index. And this is the way for us to measure how expensive things are. And actually the rate of that is increasing. But what is not increasing is our wages. Okay. And so because our wages are not increasing in line with CPI or inflation, as they say, it's very difficult for us to upkeep certain things. The average wage within the UK is anywhere between 35 to 37,000 pounds. Some may even say 30,000 pounds, depending on where you are. But what is the average amount needed to survive? I don't have those statistics right now, but it definitely isn't 37K. It's not even 30K. And so this is where the whole Henry thing comes into play, where people say, okay, I'm a high earner, not rich yet. That's what Henry means. You may be earning six figures, which is another way of saying 100K. Okay. But the point being made is that it doesn't feel like enough for people. And so where do we go with all of this information? Well, essentially, we need to find ways to manage our money. Now, some people may say, are you telling me to manage my money? Like I'm doing the best I can. But the reality is, you probably are. You probably are doing the best you can. And it still isn't enough. So what is that telling you? It's not you necessarily. And it's hard to gauge whether it's you or not, because who do you talk to about this stuff? The market is aggressive right now and it's harsh. And actually, for some people in the older generations, those boomers that are still around, maybe they didn't experience it as much, but the silent generation above them, they would say, well, this is normal. Things already became better in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And actually, post the 70s, things became a bit more difficult. Why am I saying this stuff? Well, it comes down to not necessarily how much you keep, manage, and hold on to and get rid of. Sometimes it comes down to how much you make. That is an equalizer in many different ways, shapes, and forms. And so you hear these entrepreneurs say, oh, it's so much easier to make money. Yes, access may be improved. The opportunities may improve, but it doesn't necessarily mean that competition is low and that actually people don't have a BS filter or don't want to spend money. Do you want to spend money right now? If you had the money, yes, but it doesn't feel like you want to spend money. So what are the ways in which we can think about all of this stuff? Well, if we move this along, we got how to make money in the UK here. So we've got passive streams of income, and I've got ChatGPT to help me out here. So we're going to go through them one by one. So the first one here is, and let's change the color just to change it up. The first one here is rental income. So this is obviously you buy a buy-to-let property or a HMO, so house of multiple occupancy, and then you essentially convert that in such a way where it can draw in the right types of people and you can make money on rent. Of course, if you can do this en masse, great. If you got the deposit money, great. But a lot of people don't have the deposit money. So you have to think to yourself, what are creative ways in which I can either buy property or get deposit? Does this suit my lifestyle? Now, over time, it works. And essentially, property can either act as your bank or a way for you to generate additional income. But it may not be the first thing that everyone goes towards. And we say it's passive, but upfront, it's not going to necessarily be passive. So you'll see a theme that pops up when I start talking about this stuff. So that's the first thing. The second one is dividends and stocks. So here, this is essentially where if you invest in a company, in an organization, or wherever it may be, and you're betting on its performance to do extremely well, the money that you've put in could rise or increase relative to the performance that we've seen. And so, for example, if you put in £100 into Apple stock and then it increases by 100%, you've just doubled your money. It's £200. And so this is the basic understanding of how dividends and stocks work. So dividends are just basically payment you receive for investing into a specific stock. And in relation to, the different types of vehicles you can use, there are stocks, which is the individual companies. You've got ETFs, which are exchange traded funds. Then you've also got indices or index funds, which is basically a tracker across multiple different types of organizations within a group. So you would have heard Standard & Poor's S&P 500, so the top 500 performing companies within the US. You've got emerging markets. There's all this kind of stuff there. So with this, it's about developing a portfolio that makes sense for you. So if you think about it, you'll have your pie and it'll be split up into different things. So you may have here, the S&P 500. Then you may have here Apple stock, okay? And then here you may have, let's say, gold as an example. And then here you may have some bonds, okay? And these will be split up into different percentages. Of course, depending on your age and depending on what you're looking to do, this will kind of determine, again, what you decide to invest in and how you spread your risk and portfolio. So it takes time. You need to understand what you're doing. Yes, you can go back and forth with generative AI. You can speak to somebody who is versed within these spaces. But I would say definitely do your sort of education and understandings of this first, and before you start investing into anything. Now, you can check out Trading 212. So it's a way for you to invest into some of this stuff. So if I don't have a link below, just go and check it out online as well. So that's that. That's the next thing. Then we have royalties. So royalties is a great way to earn sort of additional income. And how do you make royalties? Where think of art, think of music, think of, video pieces, all this kind of stuff there. So this is how the actors of the day would get paid. They'll get paid in royalties. So they'll produce something once, okay? So there's still work, but then they put it on the right distribution platform or right markets, and they consistently make money again and again and again. It's like when the guy who played Simba in Lion King back in the day, he didn't ask for an upfront amount of money. He asked for royalties, and he's still getting paid today, which is amazing. This is what we like to see. So if you can find creative ways to do this, this is fantastic. Another way, okay, is affiliate marketing. So affiliate marketing is essentially, let's say, for example, you like a product or service that I've produced, okay? Maybe it's my independent consulting course, okay? If you want that, you can click on the link below. I could help myself. And with that in mind, if you want to sell this on behalf of other people because you don't have the time or money or resources to develop your own thing, then if I had an affiliate offer, I could allow you to sign up to that and you would get a certain commission. And maybe I say, okay, it costs X amount of money. You get 70% and I get 30%. The 30% is to recognize that I've made this as my thing, et cetera, et cetera. But the 70% is to reward you for the fact that actually you're selling it. I didn't sell it. So you get more money. And so the more you do that, the more money that you make without even lifting a finger. So it has to make sense for what you're doing. So affiliate marketing is typically what people are told to start off with, but you need a content plan or content game or some sort of personal brand that draws people in for it to be lucrative. You know, Amazon have an affiliate program, and actually you don't even make that much. It's like 1 to 2% of the products. It used to be 5%, but it's changed. So you can go in things like, well, I think it's like commission affiliates or something like that, or CJ something. There's all these different, I haven't been on there for a long time. Do your research, go onto Perplexity, ChatGPT, all this kind of stuff, and see what different ideas come up. So that's another idea for you as well. The next one we have is automated income from online courses. So let's say you've actually created the course, okay? And to be honest with you, you're like, don't really want to turn it into affiliate income. Well, actually, I do. I still want to do that, but I've created the course. You're making 100% of that money. And if not 100%, let's say 93%, because Stripe takes 3% commission from the using their gateway, their payment gateway. And so creating a course is a great way to do this. But of course, there is startup work that is required. So you're going to have to understand, number one, you know, what your experience is, what you're passionate about potentially, okay, what the market is saying, get some feedback from the market, maybe even test it out, do a waiting list, or ask questions from your market to see what they exactly want. Maybe check out your YouTube comments, etc., etc. Build something logically. Maybe you can utilize the contents page of a book or whatever it may be, or many books or other courses to validate that your idea actually exists and it makes money and people want it. And then you throw it out there to your waiting list or to your audience or your group or to your people who may need it. So there are certain components that you need before you start doing this stuff. And of course, you could do a presentation style type course. You can do a video course, kind of like this YouTube video here. You can do a bit of both. Whatever makes sense, you can add in some audio, some text, put it behind some sort of like, again, a platform like either Kajabi or WordPress using something like BuddyBoss. You can also use things like Score.com, Teachable, Thinkific, Mighty Network, Circle, Podia. There's so many ways you can do it. You can even send people a Dropbox file with the links in there. I mean, that's old school, but you can do it. The point being made is it can be done. And so if you're thinking of developing some sort of course that makes sense, validate it first. This is a science before you do anything else. So I think the point being made here is that these things become passive. That's what ends up happening. Like they become passive, and it's not something that you can just do straight away where it's like, okay, I don't have to do anything again. These things become passive. It's nothing else. And so you need to think to yourself, what do you want to invest in when it comes to developing passive or semi-passive income, okay? So what's the alternative? Well, the alternative is obviously active income. Now, the argument could be made that everything is active income. And actually, I would agree with that because you have to put in work. However, there are different levels and intensities. Everything's going to be difficult to start off with, or there will be unknowns or things that you're not quite sure of. So you have to go out and test and understand and work out, maybe get a mentor who can provide this information for you, whether it's paid or non-paid. There are so many different ways, but you have to apply some level of first principles thinking in order for you to treat this like a scientist, treat this like somebody who is actually going to make this work. You have a hypothesis, you have a methodology and research and background that has been developed. And then you implement this stuff, then you look at your results, and then you have some recommendations in terms of what you need to do moving forward. That's how it works. Just do it again and again and again. So when it comes to active, again, got ChatGPT to help here. And it's even got a definition. So income earned in exchange for time and effort you must keep working to keep. Okay, so this is a bit different. So right now, the different types of active income, which is slightly different, and because there's no end date with this one, is essentially your job. Okay, your job is a form of active income. And actually, this is not a bad thing because you need work to basically fund ideas and things that you're doing. And so don't see your job as an evil thing. If you want to get out of there, of course, develop a plan to get out of there. But your job is a form of active income. And so we start off there, but this is where a lot of our ideas come from. It funds the trading 212 account for the ETFs or the stocks, the index funds. It funds the equipment for the course that you're creating or the media that's going to create the royalties. It funds the deposit for the property, initially at least anyway. And so the aim is to replace this stuff eventually. So that's the first one. The second one is freelancing. Okay. So freelancing is another form of active income. Now, you could be as systematic and as process driven as you need to be. Okay. But the point being made is that it's still active. It still requires your time. So you're not escaping that. The only difference is you have a bit more flexibility, or maybe you really like what you're doing. And so this is where, it comes into play in terms of differentiating the two. You also have consulting. So this is what I do. So I am a consultant, an independent consultant. I don't work for another consultancy. I work under my own consultancies. I may have recruiting, agencies or other consultancies that are not really consultancies that may represent me on my behalf. They may find me work, etc., etc. But the point being made is that I'm independent. I'm left alone to do what I'm doing. They just do all the admin and the logistics. So consulting is another way of doing it. And there are various different types of consultants. And I've done a video talking about 6 or 7 different types of consultants that exist, or contracts that exist. So if you're interested in that, then you can check out that video as well. So consulting is another one. And we also have here, and I keep on forgetting to press the mouse button. We also have here service jobs. So this is where, somebody is doing a job that somebody needs. Okay. So hairdressing, childminding, train driver, all of this kind of stuff there. So these are jobs that you see every single day and actually allows the economy to run. And then we finally have commissioned jobs. Okay. Commissioned sales jobs. So this is essentially, I've got a friend who is a killer salesperson. And actually they consistently continue to get high sales commissions because they just know how to sell. And really and truly, what she said to me is that actually the way she sells and how she differentiates herself from other people is that she's just nice to people. She's just kind to people. She's willing to listen and understand and talk to them. She's not really concerned about the metrics so heavy. She also really understands her products and services extremely well. And so she knows it inside out. So she doesn't feel like she's selling. She's just having a conversation. I remember when I went to Morocco one time and, I was listening. We went into the Moroccan market. Morocco's big. Into the Marrakesh market. And we found some argan oil. Morocco's known for its argan oil. And essentially, this man was explaining to us the science behind the argan oil, how it was produced, and all of this kind of stuff there. And actually, he sat us down to all listen. If we had any questions, we'd answer. And actually, it was almost assumed that we were going to buy this argan oil. It was a lesson 101. I think I did a video on this years ago, but I don't even know where it is. But the point being made is that they educated us. They took time to allow us to understand, and they answered our questions. So you need to know your stuff, but also be human natured and just all of that kind of jazz there. So sales is a big thing. If you can get into sales, then you can understand what is required in order for you to win it big. Okay. So we got passive income and we've got active income. So if we want to move from passive income, or from active income to passive income, should I say? So if we want to move from here to here, okay, we need to do some stuff. In fact, I want to change the color because I want to keep it nice and distinct. So we need to do some stuff. And what is that stuff? Well, we need some level of business development. And I'm not even going to put anything in here. But what I am going to say is that it's going to be very important for you to be, number one, clear of who you are. So let me just put this here. So clear on who you are. That's the first thing. And you need to know what your skills, your expertise, and all of that stuff is. Be very clear of that stuff. The second thing I would argue is you need to know what the market wants. So know the market. So that's the second thing, because the market will go up and down, but you need to know exactly what are the insights from different people. That's what you need to know. That's your job. And then the third thing is to test what you think you know. So test what you think you know. Test it. And so you test this with things like, surveys. And this could be sent out on your socials, okay? Or it could be sent out on email as an example. Or it could be sent out through a video call. Okay. So maybe it's a video call that you're having with someone. Okay. So the point being made is business development is key. And as you do these experiments, as you do these tests, you'll get a better understanding of what you need to do moving forward to turn your active income into passive income. So, or semi-active or semi-passive income, should I say. So hopefully this has given you some insights. Let me know your thoughts. Number one, what were your key takeaways, or what would you suggest that needs to be added to this specific set of lists? If you want to see more videos centered around independent consulting, contracting, and portfolio careers, then please feel free to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.